G'day, Dan here from Epic Drives Western Australia. Welcome to our second video on four-wheel driving tips for beginners. And today I want to talk to you about four-wheel drive gear selection. It's a fairly important lesson to learn in how to use four-wheel drive gears, simply because if you do get it wrong or you don't understand how to use them, when you head off-road things can go south pretty quickly.
Now, when we talk about gear selection, it's really a two-part subject. The first is something that you should already have well and truly under control, and if you don't, then I suggest you go and learn how to drive your four-wheel drive in the standard 5-speed manual on-road type scenario before you even dream about engaging four-wheel drive and going off-road. Now, if you have an auto, hopefully you're already an expert at putting it into drive mode. Now, most manual four-wheel drives, they have the standard 5-speed gearbox, and one of the first things that people who've never driven a four-wheel drive notice is you've got one regular gear stick and then you have another smaller gear stick, usually to the left. It's commonly referred to as a stumpy gear shift, and that's what this episode is primarily focusing on. So you could have settings indicated on the gear stick itself or somewhere in the display indicating 2H, 4H, 4L, and these stand for high 2, high 4 and low 4. Now, you may also have graphics displayed somewhere to help select a particular terrain. It might be snow, sand, gravel, tarmac. Some vehicles also offer hill descent control, and that's where your vehicle will actually take over control of its throttle, brakes and gearing to safely maneuver down steep descents. Now, when you're on the road, it might be the blacktop or gravel. Normally your standard 2H is fine. You don't need to go into four-wheel drive at all. However, there are situations, namely when your wheels start to spin and you notice that you're no longer in perfect control of your car, you'll need to engage either 4 high or 4 low. Now, the best option is to plan ahead so that you're in the right gear before you reach the point of losing control. And in fact, some four-wheel drives, they will allow you to switch modes whilst you're driving, which is commonly referred to as on the fly, but some four-wheel drives require you to come to a stop, put the car in neutral before you can actually engage four-wheel drive. So it goes without saying, it is important that you understand how your own four-wheel drive operates before you head out. The best way of doing that is find your user manual in your glove box or wherever you keep it and have a look at how you engage four-wheel drive on your particular vehicle. Now, 4H or high 4 allows the gearbox to use all the gears. It's generally the go-to mode for most off-road tracks. However, your 4B is armoured to tackle some gnarly terrain, and so this is where 4L or low range four-wheel drive comes into play, and this is basically your vehicle's beast mode. What it's doing is it's changing the final drive to the wheels, allowing the vehicle to crawl over obstacles at a slower speed. It's used for powering up steep hills, rocky obstacles, thick mud, and also for descending down steep hills. Both front and rear wheels are driven in low range, which uses a lower gear ratio. The wheels then turn much more slowly per revolution than they would in your high range four-wheel drive, resulting in a slower road speed but a higher torque, which assists with traction. The lower gearing gives your four-wheel drive better engine braking as well. Now, one thing that I want to make sure that you're very clear on: never drive your four-wheel drive on bitumen. Your turning circle is greatly increased, and sharp turns can seriously damage your drive line, and it also prematurely wears out your tyres due to the increased traction. And another important point is when you're in low 4, you don't actually have to start driving in first gear. You can start driving in second gear, and the reason for that is you do have a lot more torque. Your engine is much more unlikely to stall, and first gear low is extremely slow. So if you are bogged, particularly in sand, you're going to have to change gears rather quickly, and when you're stuck in sand, you need to get your momentum up as quickly as possible. So starting in second gear, you'll get a bit more speed, and changing from second gear to third gear is going to give you that extra speed that you need to get out of the sand or mud or whatever it is that you're stuck in. Another reason to try starting to drive off in second gear low is if you're rock crawling, because you'll have maximum control over your car, but at an extremely slow speed. Now, if your four-wheel drive has manual locking hubs, you'll need to engage them when you're using 4 high or 4 low. These are located in the center hub of your front two wheels. And what they're doing is they're locking the hub and the wheel to the front differential output shafts. Even with 4H or 4 low engaged, the front axles won't drive unless the hubs are locked into position. Automatic locking hubs though, you don't have to do anything. And if you don't know if you've got automatic or manual hubs, you've got automatic hubs. Now, one small issue you may encounter with automatic hubs is transitioning from 4-wheel drive back to 2-wheel drive. What you may find is occasionally you stick it into 2-wheel drive and the 4-wheel drive light stays on and you're still in 4-wheel drive. The simple solution to this is put it in reverse back 5-10 meters, the light should turn off and away you go. So as a rough guide, first and second gear low are best used for hill climbs and steep descents, as well as snatch strap recoveries and max tracks recoveries. Second and fourth gear low are good for when you're ascending sand dunes. So when you're going back down and descending a sand dune, go with second gear low. What that will do is it will keep the car moving at roughly the same speed as the sand is falling down the hill. What can happen if you're going too slow is the sand continues downhill and the back end of your car can actually start to turn left or right. If you're going too fast, you end up going over the small mound of sand that's in front of you, and that's essentially an avalanche down the hill. You're just going to go wherever that avalanche decides to take you. Now, an important thing to always remember is fifth gear low in your four-wheel drive is essentially your car's weakest link. Avoid using it in situations that require you to put stress on your drive line of your vehicle, such as soft sand, mud, or towing uphill. If you're wanting to go that fast, move into high 4 and you're not putting as much stress on your car. And lastly, water crossings. When it comes to water crossings, the best bet is second gear low. You'll have good traction and speed, which are both required when you're driving through water. The idea when you're doing a water crossing is to be just behind the wall of water that's called the bow wake. It's created as your vehicle runs through the water. Now, if you go too fast, that wall of water in front of you ends up over your bonnet, and it's important to keep a steady speed through the crossing to avoid changing gears. Anything that's going to allow water into your car should always be avoided. Second gear low, constant speed, just behind the bow wake. Sweet as.
So that's pretty much it for this episode of Epic Drives Western Australia. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, chuck us a like, and I will hopefully see you guys again very soon on the next Epic Drives Western Australia. Catch ya.